All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Cinematokraphy. I'm your host, Roberto Villegas, joined as always by
Brandt Hughes.
And this is actually a special episode because we've got a guest who's actually live streaming this, that being Mr.
Bryce Castillo. Hello.
How's it going, Bryce?
It's going good. Things are busy, but going well.
Of course. We'll definitely talk as to why. Now, what makes this a special episode? Because we're being live streamed right now on the Indie Love channel on Twitch.
Wait, what?
What?
Yes,
Nobody told me that.
Yes, we're being live. This is the first time. You didn't see the camera in front of us at all?
No. Oh, it makes so much sense now. Of course.
What's amazing about this is because I know a lot of people out there in Indie Love probably have no idea what cinematography is. And this is actually a brainchild between me and Brandt in terms of podcasting. Go into a little quick kind of spiel of what it is, because you had the best description for this whole shtick of ours.
So, I mean, we just watch movies for you so you don't have to.
Exactly.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you don't want to watch movies by yourself. So basically, like Roberto and I, we watch films and we like film. So we would go to the theaters and see movies and talk about them afterwards. And we're like, hey, it would be a cool idea to do movie commentaries because not a lot of people do that. Every now and then you'll find an audio podcast that'll do a couple good ones, like Slash Film has done a few. A few other people have done that, but nobody's really made a good, dedicated effort at it. So even though it's not necessarily the most accessible thing in the world, it's an excuse to watch movies, an excuse to talk about movies, an excuse for me to practice talking to people, which is difficult. And so that's basically how it was born. Right.
And then we've also done a couple in recent times reactions to sort of newer films sort of after we've done watching the movie, almost in a complete spoilery way, sort of the way that you would talk to your friends about a movie the minute you walked out of it. So we don't necessarily care if we spoil it in that reaction, because the idea being that for us, we just got out of the movie. Here's our initial take on it, what we thought about it, and sort of capture that moment there. But we're doing something special today. Obviously, why we have Bryce here. We are actually going to do some commentary and potentially a reaction to D.O.A. Dead on Arrival, which is the inspiration to Bryce's Kickstarter, Mercury Counter, which has been successfully funded, and probably by the time that everyone watches this after the fact, it'll have already been completed. And
we made $1 million.
Exactly.
And I'm famous.
And
winning.
It sounds like you're
dated.
Like I said. But ultimately, we're going to be doing that kind of thing. So this is different sort of take because this movie's in public domain, we can actually sync the video with the audio.
Yay!
And not get in trouble.
How neat.
That's right.
That's amazing. How amazing what public domain does. So for those who don't know, it's let's see, about an hour runtime?
About an hour 80 minutes.
24?
An hour and 80 minutes. Thank you, sir.
So an hour and 20?
Hour and 20, something like that. And it's a noir film out of 1949 or 51, depending on what IMDb entry you're reading. And it's a really cool concept. And you know what? Let's just get into it.
You want to get into it? Okay.
All right.
All right. So to sync it up, I'm going to beep, beep, beep. And then on the third one, you go.
Got it?
Got it.
So simulate it real quick.
All right. Practice run.
Practice.
Test.
Hands.
Beep. Beep. Beep.
Okay. So on that last beep, at the end of it, you hit play.
Hit play. Got it.
Professionals.
All right.
All right. For real this time. Let's do this. Beep. Beep. Beep.
Here we go.
Ooh.
Dead on Arrival, or D.O.A. actually, as it's listed on the United Artists release. So, how much of this film did you actually... This is your first noir film you've gotten into, Mr. Brandt Hughes?
No, probably not. I mean, I don't watch a ton of noir stuff. I don't have any immediate examples in mind of this is a noir film that I love. But, I've seen a few in my day.
What about you, Mr. Bryce Castillo? What about how are you in noir land?
It's definitely not my first rodeo. I mean, movies like Blade Runner, Dark City, even what's Run Lola Run?
Yeah, I guess that's technically somewhat noir.
Yeah,
in a weird way.
I had this film studies teacher who was super into German and noir films, and so we had this whole thing about how Run Lola Run is like a neo-noir sort of new age film.
I would have never have thought about that, but for me, like definitely the noir side, I'm a huge fan of cyberpunk, and cyberpunk takes a lot of its cues and such from noir. Obviously, like we mentioned, Blade Runner at the get-go, and I guess as if I think of other ones like Ghost in the Shell, kind of has some hints of that. But what I loved about this film, and I'd finally watched. First off, I love the concept. I think the concept is way crazy. Like if someone made a film like this now, like someone said, like I want to, he basically kicked off the idea of this guy walking in and saying he wants to report a murder and himself.
By the way, that's a cool shot. Oh, just that really long track.
No, I'm about to say the same thing. Like that whole follow shot was like this. Like Brandt must be eating this up because like I was watching like this is an awesome shot and kind of the way it does it, which is typical for noirs. They'll do that kind of like sort of follow shot behind that. But back to the whole concept of the film, I loved the idea of just this, like, because I remember when you told me about this, Bryce, and this almost gets in a little bit of the background of the album, because of all the stuff that we've worked on in the past and sort of things like that. When you told me about this movie and went over the idea that, hey, I'm making an album where this guy, using samples of a movie that's in public domain about this guy that gets poisoned and is like trying to solve his own murder. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's definitely like an unusual sort of trope, even today, kind of. Like it doesn't seem like one of those older tropes that kind of has become post-ironic and like expected. Because it's kind of upfront about it. Like it lays out the line, like I'm in killed, dude, and it works back from there. But it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't try to get.
You tell it any way you like.
I mean, I think if like a film today did it, it would like I'm just like imagining like a Hunger Games type teen movie. Where like,
see, because like I would imagine if it were done today, it would be almost by like part of me thinks it would be almost like a Crank. In that regard, but like I still would love to see it done in this kind of like very low camp fashion, because ultimately our main character, what's his name again?
Bigelow,
thank you. I mean, he's a normal like tax guy or business guy. He's like nothing big, he's got his secretary and his sort of slash girlfriend, whatever you want to call her. He's not anything special, and he just kind of gets thrown into this whole thing.
And the film is like not shy about portraying him as like not just a normal guy, but a real guy. Like the whole point of his trip is like to bang everybody in San Francisco and then settle down with Paula.
Right, sow your seed, so to speak, as they say to do.
I like bang everybody in San Francisco, but
and of course it has my favorite. I don't even know if this is a '50s trope. Did you catch this? Whatever. We'll hear it more in the audio when we get to San Francisco. But I guess what is the whistle? I don't even know what that instrument's called, but the woo.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, especially when he's on the vacation, it's just like it's like this dude is kind of a dirtbag, but it's 1950 and all of you guys are kind of dirtbags.
That's what it was. I think that's what I dug about it. I was like, this is like completely the 50s. Like this has every trope of the 50s. Like we have the guy going to San Francisco. The whole swinging party going down. Like it's funny because I was in kind of researching this film, sort of getting ready for this. I found that this is in the film archives, the Library of Congress. It was inducted in 2004 for preservation. Which it's funny because like when it came out, this film, it was panned. It was like nothing really, but in that same regard, so was Citizen Kane. That was also panned when it came out, and it's funny how years later, because this was in public domain and didn't get quite renewed, how much this has kind of gone, because a lot of people, when you look at this movie, talk about this as like one of the best noir kind of films and up there in terms of levels.
Yeah. Going back to what Bryce was talking about, the way they handle the story, it's so smart because it's like they set the stakes at the beginning, and you know dude's gonna die, like that's an inevitability, and that's a really clever way to build up tension and stuff.
Yeah,
because he's got this countdown, this timer, and he doesn't know when it's gonna go off, but he knows it's guaranteed, and it's really interesting how they build up. You kind of have to have some kind of not like twist or turn, but you have to have him evolve in some way, and he in him trying to find this person who killed him and why they killed him. That's a really interesting natural evolution of that consequence.
And as a character. As a personality, Bigelow his personality doesn't sort of evolve. He's always kind of this brash, sort of rough around the edges guy. But when he is put into the role of his own detective, suddenly all of those negative points about him become practical and useful. And it's almost like a redemption thing,
Yeah.
I love that shot. I love that beer drink right there. As I mentioned, just because it's such a, it was because we're being, at this point in the movie we're being introduced kind of to Bigelow, sort of because all we know is that he's going to die. That's all we know about this character, which sort of our catalyst. But I love just the girl takes a quick sip and he fucking downs the shit right there.
This week away alone. Maybe we both do.
But Bryce, you're probably more intimate with this movie than both me and Brandt combined. How many times have you had to watch this film just to find all the clips for the album?
You don't know whether or not
I've actually, I think you'd be surprised. I think I might have only watched it maybe 3 or 4 times.
Really?
And in fact, I think the first time I started watching it, I immediately started taking down time codes of samples I wanted to get, and. I think I might have only gone back one other time for a practical purpose, but I have seen it multiple times, and it's still confusing. It's still kind of a complicated mystery, but it's just entertaining.
Mm-hmm. How did you originally come across the film?
How did I? I think earlier this year I think I had the I thought that by now I don't remember. I earlier this year
when you told me about it on Jump Point, during our kind of post commentary and stuff like that.
I don't like it.
I remember. I know I made a song earlier this year called Head Case, which used samples from Romero's Night of the Living Dead, which also entered the public domain.
Right.
And at the same, I guess it must have been on the same webpage that had that movie, this was also listed. And among all the sort of kind of so-so movies, this one really stuck out just from the title being kind of unique as just D.O.A. And then the sort of description, which is just interesting in its own right, that Frank Bigelow is going to die and he has to find out who killed him because of this poison.
My name is Bigelow.
That
I have a
just
reservation. Yes, sir.
in itself is fascinating.
Here we are,
Yeah.
sir. My name is Bigelow.
I think we can
have a
start up
reservation.
the
I have it, sir.
whistle
It's very nice
counter
on the sixth floor, facing
somewhere on the
bay.
side here.
Boy, this might help you
Because
enjoy
I'm
your
curious
day,
how
Mr.
many. I think
Bigelow.
there's like
Little
what,
booklet
3 or
on how to
4,
have fun
maybe
in San
maybe
Francisco.
5. There's
I know there's a few
There's-
looking quick
exactly
There it is.
there's one.
Hey, is it always like this around here? No, this is Market Week, and it's the last day.
I don't know if that's a trope. But I have not watched enough
Always around until the
older
end.
films to note.
Oh, 517?
I haven't watched enough older films to note if that's a trope or not. I mean, I know that the whistle is a trope, but I don't like the specifically of putting that sound effect in there like that.
I just want to slide.
Yeah,
It almost feels like I just go for it.
doesn't really resonate that well with me.
It almost feels like a holdover from the silent movie era. and that maybe that's what it is, because it feels like so.
Right this way, Mr.
It feels like so forced, even in this film.
Yeah.
Like it almost feels like some executive said they're not going to understand the fact that he's attracting these girls.
I don't understand what's going on. Put some stuff in there.
Put some sound
really sell it.
Yeah, put some sound effects in there.
That'll
get into the silent film crowd.
We focus tested it, and they thought there was something on the clothes. That's why he was staring. Which is not how we want them to read it. We need them to know he has a boner.
I want to speak to Miss Paula Gibson in Banning, California. Yeah, that's right.
See, we gotta compete with the talkies. You see, I didn't even know when silent films and sound came into history of film, so I couldn't even tell you that being truthful or not.
They started putting,
Well, I don't know.
silent films kind of went out in the 30s or 40s.
Okay, so this is about the time.
So it was a little bit after.
but enough that probably somebody might have said, you need to have this, sound effects. That just feels like that kind of silent film thing where if you were in a theater and there's a piano and organ, someone would have that for Foley's sake and stuff like that.
Did a Mr. Phillips phone you? Eugene Phillips of Los Angeles.
No.
He will. He phoned the office 3 times today.
So yeah,
Said he wanted to
Bryce,
get in touch with you
how does it feel so
He said his
far
most
to
urgent and imperative
gone through
that
this
he reach
entire,
his
since we're obviously this is associated with your Kickstarter and sort of everything that's gone into it. How has this journey felt so far? Because I remember when you had came to me at the get-go, you had said, hey, Robert, I think I'm going to kickstart my album. And I remember you even showed me early stuff about the Kickstarters and everything planning. Like, how long had you been thinking about doing the Kickstarter?
The Kickstarter launched about almost 3 weeks ago. It's almost over. And I had probably been planning it the previous month or two.
I told him that I was your confidential secretary, but
because
I guess I didn't
honestly,
sound confidential enough. So I told him that he could reach you there.
The production on the album was just kind of chugging along, and when it was done, I would send it off, and it would get finished. But it's a sizable cost to have a whole album mastered. And I knew. And once the idea of I can get merchandise printed and made, I can get shirts with stuff of a thing that I made. I can have a shirt that has a thing that I am associated with made. And I thought, I can't kind of pass that up.
I'll call you tomorrow.
But the journey has been pedaling uphill the entire way. Just yesterday, I got proofs of the stickers back from the printers yesterday, of digital proof, and they weren't right. One of them was very, very wrong, and it was just I'm trying to do it your way, which is still kind of a new thing for me, doing merchandise stuff like that. And so it was this kind of frustrating.
Thanks very much.
It's always just kind of trying to fit in somewhere where you don't know, where you almost don't know, where you know almost everything you need. But
well, I'll be honest. I'm glad you're taking this one, because I'm, as a guy that's kind of gotten into a lot of different productions and a lot of different kind of, his own sort of things. And obviously we do a podcast, Jump Point, together in terms of gaming. I've been kind of interested in getting some merchandise and some stickers going up.
Yeah.
So I may have to pick your brain later on about all that stuff and talk about it.
I have words to say about the sticker company. I'll tell you that much.
I hope they're positive words, because I think we're always going to go with the same sticker company. So we won't say who they are in the recording, so that way no one knows. But you could probably.
But they are a major one.
They actually are a major one. When you look up stickers, they actually are the big one.
Yeah, they are a bigger one.
You and the boys entertaining some buyers. The usual thing. A few drinks and some laughs.
Fight Club reference.
This hotel scene in the movie, and maybe it's a being of it in a different age, but it confounds me. Oh, that's number 5. It is. It confounds me because it's the hotel is hosting this conference, but this whole hotel floor is just mingling singles.
That's what I was wondering too. It's such a weird thing, because you're absolutely right. Whenever I think of modern, now hotel rooms, I wouldn't even dream of leaving the door open.
I'm George Catwell.
Yeah.
Like I would just shut the door. Like there wouldn't even be a question of do you want me to leave the door open? Like it would just be, I'm going to close the door and the person's going to walk off. But even the idea of like, do you need anything else, and that you're already asking the bellhop, yeah, give me a pack of razor blades and something else. Mm-hmm. Like I would never in a hotel, like even I've been in fancy hotels before where they've had bellhops and those sort of things, people that bring your bags and all that, all the things that are required for a fancy hotel to exist. And it's never been like a question of like, do you want me to leave the door open? Like that never would strike my mind too. It's not like everything's a bumping party where people are like, yeah, come on into our room and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, what about you, Brandt?
I've been in my fair share of hotels, sure. The only time we've ever left the door open was at Dragon Con.
That'd be the only time I'd imagine that you'd have it, if there's a convention going on and you have a party room.
Sure.
Anything would be an improvement after Harry.
And that kind of seems like I can kind of see that, but like this is like a business conference. So I don't know. I can't not be in 2014 and look at this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I could never see this happening in 2014.
Also, it's kind of a small conference. There's like 20 people at it.
Well, I think it's implied that like these are the 20 people on this floor, and like the other floors are like this is the 50s party floor. What's amazing is that this actually comes from 2014, and right above the floor is like the dubstep and everything else. So, sure.
I love her hat.
I do too.
She is.
What I love actually, what I really adore about this is just it has such a, and this is a weird thing. I mean, obviously it's an older film, but like there are those older films that have so much of that era in them. And I think that's what I dig about this movie as much as there it is. This is not blatantly, bad at all. But what I love about the film is that it has a lot of those sort of things. Like, you have to almost really understand that you are watching a film from 1940. I mean, obviously, it's modern, things like that. But it has a lot of those sort of, like, sensibilities, in that kind of sense.
Yeah.
Like, we have a lot of, everyone's at a bar, everyone's smoking, everyone's kind of womanizing, even if they're married, even if they're that. And you have all this stuff going on at the same time. And it's just...
Yeah, the culture is definitely representative of its time.
Yeah. There even is there's a racial element, right? These 5 African American guys who are playing in the band are like the only African Americans in the movie. Even near the end, the kind of foreign characters are only kind of for it. That sounds weird. Okay, that sounds weird to say.
Well, he is playing like a motherfucker. I will say that about this guy. Mm-hmm. This guy can play the sax. That, of course, they got the life preserver. The what is it called?
Life preserver. Lifesaver.
Thank you. With the letters jive on there. So,
I mean, the letters that spell the word jive.
Not the letters jive. There's no letters that do.
Although, a jive alphabet, that would be pretty dope.
That would be pretty dope.
I don't know what it would look like.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, what kind of characters would that have?
I don't know, man.
What would it be? Step off? I don't even know. That tells you how much.
That's my favorite character.
That tells you how much jive I truly play. Honestly, no.
One of the people in our chat who's watching live says, doesn't it remind you of the crows from Disney's Robin Hood, which didn't have any racial element to it at all?
Well, what's funny is I was actually like, if we
I think you've had enough.
Oh, and here's our mysterious figure.
What'll it be? Bourbon and water, no ice. Nice, quiet place you got here. Wait till we hit the pitch in about an hour. That's when they really go out of their minds. Who's the blonde? Oh, she's one of the chicks that hangs around here. She's jive crazy.
I'd hate to have to be a bartender who had to wear a dress shirt and tie and a lei.
Yeah, I'm about to say, this guy's got a weird, I don't know what he's trying to tell us kind of vibe going on.
Well, it's probably a thing of the convention. You know, everyone's getting loose and crazy.
Calm down, Jack.
I guess.
Don't me, man. I'm being light.
Especially that guy.
Especially that guy. That guy is getting
He
really...
always comes in alone.
What's funny is I bet you that even to this day, even though this is a scene from the 50s, you know, like the 40s and late 50s, whatever, early 50s kind of thing, I bet you even to today we have businessmen that do crap like this.
Oh, I bet.
Probably like that guy.
I mean, people are crazy.
Hello.
It's not even crazy. It's just like I think that's why I really dig about this movie is just like that kind of, you know, all that the world itself. Because again, like the story itself, I think could easily work and translate to now. Like if somebody wants to make a fortune on a movie and have this awesome concept, remake this film with a bigger budget in modern times, and you've got
In the Windjammers universe.
Yes, in the Windjammers universe. No, but seriously, like if we had like a let's say like who director would you want to remake this movie?
bourbon. Well, sure.
This movie?
You saw me pour it.
Ryan Johnson.
Oh God, that'd be amazing,
Right?
Anything you say.
That would be amazing. Because like if a competent director took this like thread, there is so much you can do with this in a modern kind of setting and sort of and have it done that way. So because of that, you know, if we take the story away, then what, you know, if that story is timeless, which is great, what is excellent about this film is just the fact that it is this kind of time capsule in terms of watching it, because even though the story translates very easily and it's not hard to comprehend this.
Well, what if I told you that they did remake D.O.A.?
I saw that, but I heard it didn't do so well.
Right. They did it in 1988 with Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. And they changed a lot of the story elements, apparently.
Yeah.
Which may be partially why it is not as well received as this original.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I'm saying, like, get a competent director, get somebody that could do not just do noir per se, but understands all the subtleties of this sort of story and kind of sells it. And get, of course, you know, good cast. Like, who would play Bigelow now? If we were to cast him.
I don't know.
I might have to think about that. It'd have to be a
What if it was Tom Cruise? Like, what if it was Tom Cruise being crazy, womanizing?
That might work. I'm not. You'd say no, but that might be interesting because like I didn't get a chance to see Edge of Tomorrow, but I heard the biggest point for that film was the fact that Tom Cruise just wasn't playing Tom Cruise, sort of playing the sort of lower character.
One of the few pickup shots in this movie. This movie has a lot of longer cuts. I mean, not just the opening tracking sequence, but you can kind of, I mean, it's a product of the times, but there's a lot of these long takes.
Yeah.
Even in conversation.
Well, it's just that's how it was. But even I mean, a lot of, you know, this is not in the early days of film per se, but these are definitely the early days of sound and sort of syncing it up.
Yeah.
But even the shots that are longer are really kind of cool ones, like that opening shot, the kind of following shot behind. I'm like, that's just a really cool shot. I'd love to do that, like in a modern film. And not a whole lot of films these days really take advantage of those sort of long continuous shots.
I mean, that shot of him getting out of bed would have been like 12 shots in today's.
Right. Him wiping his eyes. One of him turning on the bed, one of him getting up off the bed, and then a wider of him actually walking.
But even then, even having that kind of thing, and it's funny that I look at that and not even notice it, because like a lot of those shots would be things that like I would have to deal if I did a film like this, because of the fact that I don't have like 4 cameras and things like that. You know, you have to kind of get certain shots certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
So here's Frank Bigelow drinking.
Yes, sir.
Scotch and a beer in 8 a.m. in the morning.
I want to imagine it's actually 1 o'clock their time, and it's just like
anything else? Oh, thank you. That's all.
It's Breakfast of Champions.
Yeah.
Waiter. Yes, sir. Take us away.
Is there anything wrong, sir?
No, just take it away. I don't even want to look at it.
Are you all right, sir?
Yeah, sure. All right, I just had too big a night, I guess, that's all. I need some fresh air.
Of course. Thank you, sir.
Keep that robe on, Bigelow. Jeez.
Yeah, Jesus.
I need some fresh air.
Here's St. Francis. This is the Swingin' Hotel in San Francisco.
There's another a couple of long tracking shots coming up.
I'm always a big fan when these older films take the time to break away from their sets to do stuff outside.
Yeah. There's a lot of really great on-location stuff.
You've got to imagine. I mean, we are lucky in the era we're in terms of film. You know, that we as like kind of like you in particular as sort of a very much digital guy, you're able to do these sort of shots at a cheap sort of level. But imagine like if film right now we say is costly and it's really not terribly costly, like then it had to be this. Maybe not sacred resource, but definitely something that, you know, costs a lot more money. And two, just getting, you know, setting up an outside shot and you know, not having the ability to see what that shot would look like and just hope it got captured a certain way and didn't overexpose the film or blow out anything or anything like that. Because you would, you know, and that's the era of dailies where I don't even think you've got dailies. I don't even know how that worked out for development and things like that of actually watching what a shot looked like.
I want to get the results of those tests we took.
I don't know.
Again, it's just you know a lot of that. I always want to watch an older film. I imagine like how far we've come in terms of stuff, and I also do wish that somebody, you know, we're right now watching the archive.org version. I wonder if there's a cleaned up version of this film because I would love to see it like a better transfer of this.
There actually is. The one I recommend is from Image Entertainment. You can get on Amazon for really, really cheap. And they have a very clean transfer. But they updated the title cards, and so I think that's how they keep their copyright on that transfer, which is why we're not watching it.
Oh, is that how you do it?
Sick.
Interesting.
But you told me I was in good shape.
Yes, I know.
Now that we know that, Brandt, we should start a business where we take public domain films and like just slightly change the title card like 1 pixel.
Okay.
Well,
And
then
see
see,
that's a change.
they must have done a total retransfer of the film because they overwrite the old. They're not on top of the old cards. They are in place of the old cards.
Well, because like, okay, what is obviously right now ours is a 4:3 aspect ratio. Like, is that the I couldn't find what the official aspect ratio was of this movie.
What do you mean, which? You mean there's nothing?
On the
Is it
DVD
traditional
I've got
4:3?
here, it's 4:3.
Okay, no, I know that. I just it's more because I'm like again that era of filming. You know, this doesn't feel like a pan and scan at all. Like it's not, you know, it's not moving the camera around in weird places. So I'm imagining it is. This is the official aspect ratio of it.
I mean, I bet it is 4:3 because I think this was before they started getting wacky with trying every aspect ratio possible.
Yeah, I think this was shot before CinemaScope kind of came into play.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think.
Because like, when did
Maybe it's around the same time.
Well, let's find out while we have a chance, because I'm really curious, because like I'm always, when it comes to movies like this, and like I want to watch this in whatever the director intended to, especially this kind of film. And again, it doesn't feel like a pan and scan, so I don't think it's, you know, I think it's natural in this aspect ratio.
Yeah, so CinemaScope came into creation in 1953.
Okay, yeah, that's well before this was like 49.
Yeah.
Okay. And CinemaScope is why they did the
So like, yeah, the anamorphic format wasn't even invented when this came out. There might have been wider formats, but nothing as wide as 2.4 to 1 aspect ratio.
What's the matter with you? Doctor, I want you to examine me for luminous poison. Come right in here.
So
What I think is
Bryce,
kind of an interesting facet of this movie, or at least the script, is they very deliberately avoid naming the poison. Even through these medical scenes and the title card at the end, they only refer to it as a luminous poison.
Yeah.
There it is.
I've actually seen multiple threads online trying to uncover what exactly that radioactive poison it could be.
Well, I don't think it matters because it's very much a MacGuffin.
But it's supposedly real. That's the thing, is that it's based on a real poison. Though it probably doesn't make your blood glow.
No, but I'm just saying. Ultimately, it's the catalyst to push along the story. It's the like I say, it's the MacGuffin. It really doesn't matter, but it doesn't really matter. Like it's like, oh, there's a poison that's causing it. Like, well, what poison? Who cares? It's going to kill you 24 hours. Does it matter what it is? We can't fix it.
A week at the most.
You were going to say something, Brandt?
Yeah, I was going to ask Bryce. So, like the film takes its own story and tells it in its own way, and then your album kind of retells it through your lens. How do you feel that your version of the story differs from the original?
I think. That's tough. That's tough because when my approach to it has been to leave it open to interpretation.
Okay.
But my take on it is definitely a more futuristic approach, a more Fifth Element-y type of universe compared to like a more humanistic, like Bioshocky type thing, where it would be a lot of the same players and a lot of the broad strokes, rushing around, making these kind of large action sequences. This is one of the tracking shots I meant before.
Yeah.
What I love is how they're kind of getting around some of the technical limitations. Like, we get this long tracking shot. Even before this kicked off, they did sort of this weird, so like they're doing that kind of sweep and pan, so that way they can kind of get it. Because I know like one of the more famous kind of tracking shots of later eras was in film. I think it'd be Hitchcock's. I forget which movie it was. But like, there's this like long continuous shot that technically has one cut hidden, and it's like right at a column, so they could kind of get away with it because when the film essentially ran out, and they literally could not go beyond that. They had to switch the reel at that point. And I like how they kind of still imply that there's this continuous running by just sort of cutting, these like swiping kind of cuts and things like that.
Yeah. Were you thinking of? I think it's called Rope.
Is it Rope?
I think that was his film that was an effective one take.
Yeah, because it looked like one take, but like because film at the time and even now, there's a limit of how far you can actually record on one one roll of film stock, and so the way he slid in cuts will be like at columns or at like things like that, where it's not in the sense of the movie, it's not a cut, but in terms of the technical aspect, it is a cut.
Yeah, and there's kind of a digital spiritual successor to that. I forgot what it's called. It's got Elizabeth Olsen in it, and it all circulates around this house, and it looks like one continuous shot take, and it's pretty cool, at least from a technical.
Oh yeah, no. Is that that's a trolley in the background, right? Or is that the train?
Yeah, it's it looks like a train.
Yeah, that's why it's always tricky with San Francisco, especially that era. Since the trolleys were, the trolleys still run now, I think, but like they were a big mode of transportation back then in terms of the city. I wonder if these bars are actually real. Like, I wonder if they're still around today.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be an interesting thing to see. Let's take a San Francisco LA
where
tour.
Exactly all this stuff is shot in San Francisco.
You'd be like Andrew Mann and try and find Monkey Island. Just go out there and search for the lost bars of D.O.A.
Did Andrew Mann seriously look up try to find Monkey Island? Like,
Yeah, he did.
I did not know that. I kind of want to see that movie.
He did that as he was shooting Don't Trust Andrew Mann, because he was in the area and he found where Monkey Island was.
Like we're talking like Monkey Island, like
the park kind of place.
okay.
Yeah,
It's
not an actual island.
Oh, okay. It's like again,
I think it was called Monkey Island, right?
Because like I don't when I think Monkey Island, I think the video game. That's why I'm wondering if you're talking about
I'm sorry.
the King Kong Island or something like that. Because Andrew Mann looking at a gaming related island, I'm now intrigued.
No, it's just this place that had like hundreds of monkeys back in.
Oh,
Back in the day.
yeah. That Monkey Island, not the game Monkey Island, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
but no, I would love to see that because a lot of these films like have that kind of thing. Like a lot of your famous kind of
I'm sorry, Paul.
cinematic areas. Like I remember in
towards the end of the film, they shoot in that one building that's in like every movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't strain yourself.
I forget what that building's called. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was in Blade Runners and 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah. It's I think it's in L.A. That I know it's in L.A. And I bet you if you guys look it up, you'll find it. I remember a friend of mine when I first found out that fact that it was like this movie has been everything. It was back. I think it was like my first South by Southwest, and I somehow bumped into some guys that were in part of the film track, and they were friends. They became friends of mine, and we started chit chatting about stuff. And they had mentioned that building to me. I had no idea about that pedigree. Was that this like famous hotel building was like in or abandoned? I don't even know it was a hotel building anymore, but was in like Blade Runner and stuff like that. And you mentioned 500 Days of Summer, and now in D.O.A. Or
Yeah.
was in D.O.A. I should say.
Finally, in 2014, it's in D.O.A.
Paula, will you stop talking so much and tell me where his office is?
All right. It's the Phillips Importing and Exporting Company, Bradbury Building, Los Angeles.
Bradbury Building, Los Angeles.
That's right. Say, this is really a switch.
Listen, if you want to reach me, I'll be in
Is
Los
it called
Angeles.
the Bradbury Building?
I'm sorry,
I don't
Paul. I've
think
got to
so.
hurry.
Look it up really, because we're gonna be changing from locales to LA soon. We're actually, how far away in the movie now?
We are
38
about
minutes.
38 minutes, almost halfway.
And of course, what 50s movie would be complete without a
scale airplane.
an air sequence in a spittoon? Wow.
Yeah.
This must have been when it actually was a real building then.
Yeah.
The Bradbury Building, yeah, that's the name of the film. Let's see.
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'd like to
There you
see
go.
someone in charge here.
There we go. At the Bradbury Building, you can all visit it and see D.O.A.
He's our controller.
Let's see, what movies does it say it's been in? It was featured in The White Cliffs of Dover, The Indestructible Man, Caprice, and a couple other things in terms of television. Apparently, there's also an Outer Limits episode. Demon with a Glass Hand.
What can I do for you? Well, Mr.
This
Phillips
is a
called my
piece of
office
cinema
several times
history.
yesterday. I'd like to
So
show
as
you
sort
it's all
as
about.
a mystery tale,
Yeah.
if you compare it to something like the Sherlock Holmes series, where he had that whole set of commandments of the way you should write a mystery story, and that the audience, like all of the facts should be laid out before the very end and reveal,
I
right?
merely said he phoned my office. My office will be here in Los Angeles.
But D.O.A. kind of doesn't do that.
Miss Foster.
Like you follow these different narrative strings, but it's really only at the very end that the reasoning and the motivations actually come out. Do you think that detracts from it as a detective's tale, at least Roberto, because you've seen it?
Now, if you don't mind.
I guess for me, it's more of the Like, I don't think it detracts. I think it might add to it because what I like about this as sort of a detective thing is that you already have the answer. You already have the outcome. You already know what's going to happen. And our main character knows what's going to happen. And he's only got a very limited time to solve this. Like, someone like a longer detective novel has, can span days, weeks, months,
I see.
Be fine with that. There's no kind of perception of time. It's not like, time's running out or something's happening and someone's got to that. But with D.O.A, we have a definitive counter. We have a day. We have very limited time, and it's not. It's implied that this guy is like running across trying to find all these threads. So I think that frantic nature really maybe
separates it.
Kind of limits what you can do.
Yeah.
That make any sense?
Yeah. Because it isn't exactly the same as a detective tale.
No, and that's I think I dig it a lot. Is that it's because if let's say this happened to you, Bryce,
sure,
that you happen to get poisoned and had but 24 hours to figure out who the hell was trying to kill you and why.
I haven't the slightest idea.
Like, it would just be
it would be a thing where there's no way to know from the hints at the beginning.
Yeah, you would never.
Did your husband ever mention anything about me, Mrs. Phillips? Anything
what about you,
all?
Brandt? What do you think about the whole
I can't recall Eugene
detective
ever
thing?
having mentioned your name.
It's cool. Yep.
I hate to ask you this, Mrs. Phillips, but it's of vital importance to me. Do you know why your husband committed suicide?
Oh.
You're certainly not the most diplomatic person in the world, are you, Bigelow? Were you a friend of my brother's? I never met him. My brother was in a jam, a pretty bad jam. He was arrested 2 days ago. He sold some iridium to a dealer by the name of Majak. It's a very rare metal, very costly. Anyway, the iridium turned out to be stolen. He was released on bail yesterday, but he faced a pretty stiff prison term. And have committed suicide for less. Yes, I know. That's how the police feel about it. What puzzles me, though, is this crooked deal. Knowing Eugene, you wouldn't say he's the type of man to be mixed up in anything like that. Now, what?
This is a common thing for Brandt and I. We will traditionally in a movie get a little too sucked into it and start actually watching it, forgetting we're supposed to be recording and talking to people.
Such vital importance to you.
Well, this is where the actual mystery sort of
yeah, that's why
evolves.
Everything's kicking off, and I want to kind of watch it again.
Apparently, some of the names in this shot are the production staff.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I did not know that. So that's what the second pickup shot.
Go to my room right away. I'll take it up there.
I think maybe. I know we had how many pickup shots have we had so far? Because you mentioned there's not that many.
I think there've been a couple.
Yeah, that might be 4 or 5. There's been a number of them.
Something like that.
Well, Sinbad, I'd just about given you up for lost.
One of our commenters says, "Detective Bigelow, irradiated gigolo."
I can't explain it to you just now, Paul.
I'd watch that movie.
I'd watch that movie too. I'd watch a lot of. I would love to see this movie done again, just with a good cast, a good director.
Man, what if they did a Bigelow series where it was always like a mystery, kind of like this, and he always dies?
I can't tell you how
Like,
Oh my God! It's like that one story from Justin's R.L. Stein, where that one guy dies in every book.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, guess what? I found that.
Well, because I would love to. I'm trying to think who would play Bigelow now. Like, I'm really kind of racking my head on that. And
I remember now. I made the
maybe
myself. You had notarized a paper one morning.
like
before I came to work.
like I'm trying to think of an everyman kind of
For a
character.
George Reynolds made out to Eugene Phillips of Los Angeles.
If we want an attractive person, we'd go with our personal favorite actor, Joseph
Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah,
GJL.
sure. That's sort of a top actor here in the cinematography land.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, George.
I think I feel like it would have to be someone older.
Do a stranger route and maybe stretch an acting capability. Maybe I'd go with a oh god, what's that guy from the Muppets? And
Jason Segel.
Jason Segel. I'm just thinking of everyman kind of characters because that's the beauty part of Bigelow is that he feels he is an every kind of day guy. There's nothing special about him.
Yeah.
He's just a dude.
Oh, here's a good suggestion from the chat. John Hamm.
Yes, that would be perfect.
Tall, very manly, got a classic look.
I've got to talk to you, Mr.
Very
Yeah,
gruff.
because ultimately we want a guy that doesn't really. I mean, not saying he's not can be attractive, not saying Bigelow's uglier than that, but just he's an average guy, and I think that's what I like about the movie itself is that we have this average guy thrown into a not so average situation.
George Reynolds. Why, that's the man my husband claimed
Kind
sold
of
him
forced,
iridium.
but
What did
still.
Reynolds claim?
Reynolds disappeared.
Yes.
About 2 months ago, my husband grew suspicious that something was wrong. Since then, he tried in every way to locate Reynolds, but could find no trace of him.
But I don't get it. Your husband could have proved he made a legitimate deal by showing the bill of sale he got from Reynolds.
Then there was a bill of sale?
Yes, of course there was.
My husband swore there was, but at the time
I do
he was
really like
arrested,
that
he couldn't
serialized
find it. It was
idea.
mysterious.
That would be
Where
fun
he dies
too.
every
Well, then
time.
if your husband could have shown proof...
Or maybe
it
we
would
could
have
take
been George Reynolds
the
who would have faced
24
prison
route.
Eugene would confess
and
that Reynolds
do
had stolen the bill of sale.
like
The only one who had reason to eliminate
one-off
evidence
kind
the
of
transaction.
micro series of 24 episodes, each 1 hour in length, kind of following
Oh, if you'd only come
the story
to
of
me.
Bigelow. That would be
My
also
husband
kind of
might
cool
be
way of
alive
revealing the
today.
story, in very small chunks. Although I'd like the serialized idea of that. It just feels like it feels a little like it may be a little
The
too
only thing that puzzles me
not
is that
sci-fi,
you haven't
but
asked how I
a
knew
little
that was
too.
It's a little kind of an
supernatural.
abstract concept.
It's just true.
I would love it if so the first movie, so it would be like this, like they remade this one, like not shot for shot, and they kind of didn't make a big deal out of it, and then like 2 years later, D.O.A. 2. And like, it's not really ever touched on. Like they don't ever explain it ever.
Didn't he?
Why don't you ask Mr.
So
Holiday?
okay, because that's the only issue I'd have is that like when they did the Crank 2 kind of thing, like they had to touch on the fact that the guy kind of died and just sort of like the heartbeat kind of came back, and they had to sort of talk about that. I'm like, why would you can't do Crank 2? Crank 1 was like this had a very definitive end. It didn't really lend itself to have another sequel with the same character in that regard. And so my brain goes like, well, how could you do DOA where you could explain why the character came back?
Yeah, I think you can't explain it. You just roll with
roll with
it.
it.
And maybe like
Phillips is innocent. Innocent men don't have to jump
behind
out
the
of windows.
scenes, there's an in-canon
Just who you
like,
trying to
oh,
protect,
these are
Miss Foster? Why
alternate
are you so
universe
afraid to tell us the
versions of him or
That
something.
would be really cool then. Okay.
Then Marvel crossover,
Listen to me. This thing is going to
There you
explode wide
go.
open.
$1 billion.
You've got nothing to hide. You better start talking. Or maybe you are mixed up.
No!
Well, then come on.
Look at him. This is really you can tell this is 1950. Him manhandling this woman.
I'm just
Yeah, like all of the body language is very 50s.
Been trying to locate her and finally learn where she lives.
I know we keep harkening on that, and obviously it's an older film where we do that,
That's when he had me
but
put in the calls for you.
it's important to note these things because like that's what makes this such an interesting kind of film is the fact that this is happening in this era. I mean, like I don't even know. Like I said, this film when it came out, like if you go to the Wikipedia article, you can read the review is like, it's an all right film. It's not anything special. Like I forget the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, and I'll pull it up because
You must be pretty friendly with Stanley.
like they were like you read it and it's like this like almost kind of scathing review, and I'm like, really? That doesn't seem like the movie I watched, and maybe that's just the sensibilities back then. Like I wonder like what other films came on during this era at that time.
I'm sure there were plenty of films that came out.
Yes.
around
Well, I
this
know
time.
that, but I'm saying like like there's like when we talk about films and sort of what's not what's good, what's bad, but sort of what one of the things we constantly talk about in our sort of themes of films is the idea of what makes a movie go beyond its era. Like what films,
Right, like how do you make it timeless?
exactly. Like how do you make
I don't know. And now will you get out of
it
here and leave me alone?
transcends what it was made in.
Exactly. You know, how do you do that? What elements are needed for that kind of film? How do you approach like a Spartacus or a Dr. Strangelove? Like Dr. Strangelove is a great example because it's like a 50s black and white film, but it's like I will watch it now and still be amazed and everything in that movie in terms of shots and acting and stuff like that.
I don't know what you're
so, you know, we talk about that all the time with these sort of movies, and a lot of the times when those films came out, obviously one of the prime examples, Citizen Kane, like they're just not really accepted of their time. Like they're just sort of, that was a crap film. Why would you want to watch about a guy this? Whereas we talk about Citizen Kane now, and there is no list out there that doesn't have that list as like one of the top films of all time.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know where he is.
Is that what you told Phillips yesterday?
I told him exactly what I'm telling you. I haven't heard from him in months.
Yeah? You're mighty careful of the picture of a man you haven't heard from in months. What does the Ray stand for?
It was a pet name. Do you mind?
Oh, it sounds very cozy, Miss Rakubian.
So here it is. The New York Times, its May 1950 review, described it as a fairly obvious and plotting recital involving crime, passion, stolen iridium, gangland beatings, and one man's innocent bewilderment upon being caught up in a web of circumstance that marks him for death. O'Brien's performance had a good deal of drive, while Britton adds a pleasant touch of blonde attractiveness.
Punch your dirty face in.
Whereas I think like now we have like way higher reviews, stuff like that.
Your tickets.
Let's see what else came out.
Don't be surprised if I'm there to see you off.
Let's just contextualize the scene that just happened here. He walked into this woman's apartment, stole her gun and photo, and just walks out. Just like, yeah, I bet you would fucking hit me, wouldn't you?
No one called the cops. No one. Apparently, that's totally cool.
Bigelow's like, I'm already dead. What can you do to me?
That's a good point. That's actually a really good kind of concept. Is that Bigelow knows he's gone, and there's nothing he can do about it. So
what are you gonna do? Kill me?
Pictures, I can't remember them all.
Well, because like the car he rented didn't look like for that time looked like a pretty fancy car.
He stole it, probably.
No, he signed for it and like rented it and put it under his name or something. Like
GTA style.
I know you're
Essentially, get out of the car.
Well, because like if we're done now, for example, I'd imagine like the car Bigelow would get would be like a Lamborghini or some type of super fancy car. Because if you know where you're going to go in like 24 hours,
you're going to get a Maserati.
Exactly. You're going to get a Benz. You're going to get a Tesla. What's the what is it, the Bugatti Veyron? Is that the expensive car or some shit?
Bugatti Veyron.
I would get that. Like, even though I'm not a car person, I'm like, well, yeah, I'll put it under my credit card. Here you go.
You have a feeling Avis is not going to have a Bugatti for you, though.
Well, I'm not going to go to Avis. I'll just buy the car. I'll sign whatever. I'll do whatever. I'll put it under some name. Uh-oh.
This is another kind of awkwardly blocked out scene of like Bigelow basically like not really taking very good cover.
Yeah, not really getting shot at too. like we got Stormtrooper aim, we got this guy. He's just kind of casually walking to the set as like guns are being fired like close to his feet. The occasional sound effect of like to mask the squib.
That was a gorgeous shot right here.
Oh yeah.
With the constant in and out of light and the silhouette against those tanks. And also birds.
I wonder how much of that was planned with the birds.
I would recommend.
Well, here's a question. Let's say you're directing this shot. Would you tell your actor about the birds?
Probably not if I could help it.
Because like that's why I'm saying like that's why I say I wonder how much plan like how much the actual actor to play Bigelow knows, because like that kind of reaction is like, oh god, birds, what the they're just birds. And what's the big deal? Barrel falling is more important, I'd say, but that you got to warn somebody about.
Yeah, this whole sort of scene is kind of awkward, but it accomplishes sort of the creating some real action in the movie, even if the directions are kind of mishmashed.
Well, because he's learning something and putting together some things that.
Are you all right? Can I get you anything?
No, thanks. Do you know this man?
No, I don't think so.
So why did he drive out there?
I'm quite sure.
He drove out there to go to the photography studio to find out more about this photo of Raymond.
Okay.
This is Reynolds?
And then he started
Or
getting
Reynolds,
shot.
sorry.
That's what I want to know. Tell me something, Halliday.
It's a rough hood.
Controller here.
Then he found out that the guy, because I think that's what's interesting about D.O.A. is just a lot of it is sort of haphazard and biased, which makes sense. If I were trying to frantically figure out who tried to kill, who essentially poisoned me, I may not connect all the threads right away because I wouldn't have time. Like he found, for example, the guy or whoever was there had been to the bar he was at because he had a matchbook from the fisherman. So that had to have been when everything kicked off. And it's just, again, he's slowly but surely trying to put all the pieces together. Because, I mean, they don't got much time to put the pieces together.
That last shot that we had with Bigelow standing next to Phillips really solidifies my idea that Tom Cruise should be Bigelow in the 2014 remake. Just because of, he's not a tall guy.
No.
He manages to be imposing, but not tall.
Well, it's about time you showed up, Bigelow. Go ahead, Dave. Real cute, ain't you, Bigelow? Just real cute.
Mama didn't lose much time getting a hold of you guys, did she?
Shut up. Let's go, Bigelow. Look at him. He can't take it. Soft in the belly.
You do that again and I'll kick your face.
Lay off, Chester. Cut it out. Shut up! Who asked you? Better let him answer. The clerk might know he's in.
Go ahead, Bigelow.
This is another great shot here. There's just a lot
Hello?
happening.
Frank, why did you hang up on me?
It's one of those complicated shots that
I'm sorry, Paula. I was in a hurry.
could be a painting and tell its own whole story.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to tell you that McGowan was in hollering his head off because you didn't go over the books.
Tell McGowan to get another auditor.
Sure, I'll just do that little thing and lose the best paying account we've got.
Do as I tell you, Paula.
Frank, are you drunk?
Paula, how much we got in the bank?
About $2,200.
Draw it out tomorrow.
Sure. Then what do? Skip town without paying our bills?
Forget the bills. You know that coat you always wanted? Buy it.
You are drunk. If I didn't have such a good character, I'd be tempted to take advantage of your intoxicated state, Mr. Bigelow.
I'm not drunk, Paula.
Well, then don't tell me that one day away from me can affect you this way.
Cut it short.
Paula,
Yes?
I'm sorry I left you. I never realized how much I love you. But I know it now.
Oh, Frank, darling, I love you
I'm gonna cry.
so very much. Please come home. I miss you terribly.
I said cut it short. I'd just love to let you have it, Bigelow. Let's go, Chester. This guy's kept us waiting long enough now. Walk in front of me, Bigelow.
The Chester character is
And keep your mouth shut. If you so much look
almost a little out of place compared to the rest of the cast. He's off. He's missing a couple of cards.
I think that's the point.
And it's almost cartoonish how.
Yeah.
If you look at the way he's dressed, with the very high waist, the very short tie,
No, Chester.
huge jacket.
Don't I always get what Mr. Majak sends me after? Majak.
And
I think that's the point. I think we have to have sort of the crazy
And the dealer
criminal
who bought the iridium
person.
from Phillips.
But you are right. He's a bit
You have
kind of
Rakubian on old
weird.
stolen stuff on
Even
Phillips
for the
to help
era, he's
O'Malley here,
weird.
and then you buy it back from him. Oh, you certainly made a sucker out of Phillips.
What is it, Mr. Bigelow? Exactly what is on your mind?
I'm looking for Raymond Rakubian.
What?
Well, now, Molly here has told you everything else. I'm sure she must have told you that, too.
You don't expect me to believe this conversation. So, what is on your mind? I mean, underneath. You forced your way into my affairs, and now I want to know why.
I just told you. I'm looking for Raymond Rakubian.
Don't get cute. I'm just itching to work you over. Soft in the belly. Can't take it. See what I tell you?
There it is. Finally, I've been waiting for moments like this in the movie. Because I love fight sequences in older films.
Can't do that.
They're so fun.
I'm gonna blow your guts
Even if they're
out.
just like short lived.
Way off, just enough now. Look at him. He's so scared of Chester, he'd talk now.
Any
He's not
second now,
afraid, Chester.
I'm expecting Chester to like throw a pie at somebody.
You can tell from a
I don't
man
know. He's got a
when
pretty. He's got a
afraid.
pretty heavy piece in his hand. I'm expecting
Look
to
at
shoot
his eyes.
everybody in the room. See, Chester, like if we were to put him in modern parlance, sort of a modern film, he would be. He wouldn't be dressed like this, obviously, but he would be the off-center kind of criminal character. Like he'd almost be like
Better
a.
keep him away from me.
What's the enemy in the big main villain in Far Cry 3?
Go away, Chester.
Oh, I don't know.
I forgot the guy's name, but he'd be that kind of
Do
like
what I
that
tell
very
you, my boy.
off-center villain.
Please.
And I'm trying to think who would play him in a movie kind of sense, because he's definitely not all there, but if done right, you could have a character in that regard.
He's like Suzanne. He's like Crazy Eyes from Orange Is the New Black
There you
in
go.
season 2.
Likes to see blood.
You know, a
He's
little-
definitely he's definitely short of a few marbles, but
Now Majak's here is very much like a Bond villain in
Raymond
his
Rakubian
presence.
was my nephew.
well, that's what I dig about a lot of this stuff. A lot of these tropes that are set up in noir, like that.
I'm afraid you have been sidetracked.
A lot of these are very common sort of
Somebody made an
tropes in
attempt again
noir,
today.
and the way they're
No
executed.
reason to kill you. Believe
What
me.
I dig about it is just it has like, a lot of those sort of
certain bill of sale.
especially in the early Bond films,
Not Rakubian.
they borrow some of those notes. Not all of them, but a couple.
That's a closet.
Because this is before. I don't know if this was before the novelization, the actual Bond novels.
You could go.
I know it's definitely before the Bond movies.
Now you
I couldn't tell you
present
about if
the
it's
problem.
before the
You know too much, and
Casino
I am
Royale, the actual book.
Chester.
Suppose I were able to prove to you that I only want to find the person who tried to kill me. And I won't cause you any trouble.
You know I can go to jail for 10 years for this little business. 10 years. At my age, that's my life. That means my entire life. With my life, I do not take chances. I am sorry, believe me. You want Joe to go with you?
No. Just Bigelow and me.
One of our commenters says for the 2014 remake, maybe Matt Damon
Bye, Mr. Bigelow.
as a talented Mr. Ripley type character
Let's go back.
as Chester.
That would work out. I'm thinking more like I'm trying to think of my like off-centered kind of villainous kind of characters. Not villainous, but just sort of little touched. And I'm trying to. It's taking me a while to think back in the films those characters because there's so many, not just good ones, but just ones I can't think of. I can't think of an actor name. That's my big freaking problem. Is I'm trying to think.
Shouldn't have done that, Bigelow. I don't like that.
I'm going to
Got
enjoy
anything?
this, Bigelow.
No, not really.
I've done jobs like this.
I know I'm stressing about it just because like it's that kind of character I'd love to see. And maybe I'm stressing because I want to like this movie feels like
I never liked that pussy.
like there's nothing thematically about this movie that I could not see doing. Like even this is such a classic kind of shot now in a film. You know, I mean it's the whole kind of like two pan shot kind of car following sort of thing. That I would love to see thematically done now. Like I would love to see how they'd approach it now, and you know, there'd obviously be more action sequences and things like that.
You don't like it, the belly?
But like it's that kind of film that if somebody with a budget, not even that much of a budget, it could be a very, very low budget Hollywood film.
Yeah.
Because it's not that, you know, you're not dealing with too many complicated kind of shot. Like you could do it indie style very easily. You know, you're not dealing with, you know, CG film, stuff like that.
It's not like it has a bunch of giant set pieces that are super complex or anything.
Yeah. And it, you know, yes, it's in San Francisco, but you could essentially put it in any town. You could put it in, you know, let's say Los Angeles.
Takes longer when you get it in the belly.
Even New York, because the idea being that Bigelow comes from sort of this no-name town, and then gets, well, the minute he gets to the big town, that's where, you know, shit kicks off. And I would love to see this done again, because I think that if we had a director that understood noir, like look at this, like this would be a total like that could have been, even though it's not that long a shot here, that could have been that sort of like kind of car kind of, you know, fighting moment, if you will, kind of action shot where you could have him struggling with the car for a bit, and then kind of take this into a longer drawn out follow kind of action shot.
I thought this scene was pretty cool. It has a weird sort of grounded feeling that you don't really get in a lot of modern like shootout sequences.
I guess you're right, yeah, because it's like we're actually in here. We're in a drugstore, for Lord's sakes.
Yeah.
Like
there is a lot of it's I think it's kind of the on location versus, you know, the studio set feeling that we mentioned before.
These people don't realize what's going on.
That reaction shot.
Oh, yeah. That's such a bad. And yes, it is a drugstore complete with a soda jerk. Oh!
But look at this. I mean, this isn't even Bigelow's doing. Bigelow is just staying out of the way, and much like his impending doom, fate is sort of taking care of his obstacles.
Oh, because he's got it.
Yeah.
That's Chester. That's his dad.
Just another one of many things that are inevitably out of his control.
Yeah, well, that's again how sometimes life's like that, and of course this movie shows that.
Frank, are you all right?
Yes, I'm all right, Paula, but what are you doing here? How did you get here?
Freddie Ross threw me down. I had to come. I had to see you.
You shouldn't have come, Paula. You shouldn't have.
What is it, Frank? You're in some kind of trouble. I know it. Look at you. You're a sight. Your clothes look as if you've slept in them. Are you ill? You are. You're feverish.
I'm all right, Paula, and I'm not in any trouble, believe me.
You're lying, Frank. Right after I spoke to you, I got a phone call from the San Francisco police. They asked if I knew where you were.
You didn't tell them anything, did you?
Of course not. It was the homicide detective that called. What is it, Frank? If you're in any kind of trouble, you certainly can trust me.
Look, I'm not in any trouble with the police, Paula, believe me. But you can't stay here. You've got to go back to Banning right away.
No, I won't go, Frank. I won't. I'm staying here with you.
Paula, it's better that you go back, believe me.
Why? What's this all about?
Most of my
What has it got to do
conversations
with
I have
Phillips
this
and
kind of
Reynolds?
personal space.
Is this how this works out for you? He's
Yeah.
like, go back home, Paula. I can't tell you why. I'm
like 3 inches away from their mouth, just like, hey, I'm talking to you like this, real close to your face. That's how we do most of these episodes.
That's how we usually do this arm in arm and in really intimate shots. We have a recording booth over there. It's actually my closet. We watch the movies on a smaller screen. This is the first time we've done it on the couch ever.
Don't ever be frightened of anything again. Will you promise me that?
I love you so much, darling. More than you
I could even imagine now framing a 4x3 shot.
until I loved you.
It's tough.
Sometimes when I used to be
You know, and I don't even mean that. Like I think of that always in older films because like you and especially like I would not even I could even believe having to fit everything in that shot and do it correctly.
There's nothing I can do about it. I feel so helpless. You're leaving me out of something. Tell me, Frank, what is it? Give me a chance to fight back. Just give me a chance, please. You do love me, don't you?
Oh, yes, Paul, I love you. I never was more certain of anything in my life. I wasn't sure before. I was a little blind, I guess. But believe me, I'm sure now. Can you understand that, Paula?
I understand.
A man can be like that, Paula. Something has to happen. It can be a big thing or a little thing, but it can make him realize how much someone means to him, how much he
This has got to
really
suck
loves.
for Bigelow.
Oh, and I love you, Paul.
Like
Dying?
More than I ever
well,
thought.
yes,
Anyone
dying, but
in the
like.
world, I love you.
Like he was trying to keep his lady out of it, so to speak, you know, because she like everything else. And he's right now at this moment just going through.
You don't want my help.
Like he is like I would be going through hell. Like fuck, I just realized this is the woman I probably should have married and been with.
I know you're in
and,
trouble. I
you
can't
know, because we all, you know, the curse of a lot of stuff is we all think we have more time than we do. And I think that's what I like about these sort of scenes is that they exemplify them as best as they can. And I really, like I said, I'd feel terrible as Frank as a character because it's like, you know, this is it. Like you don't get another shot at all this. And you wasted all your time.
You'll come back.
Even though you thought, you know, even if you thought you had more time.
And I think it puts the stakes. It continues to keep the stakes up of Bigelow sort of taking this pragmatic thing of like not stopping and explaining to Paula what's happening because he needs to figure this out and then tell the tale at the very end. At least let her know as much as he can, but only after he serves his own sort of brand of justice.
Well, because I mean, and it sucks. It's so bad. I mean, because
I was gonna ask you guys why he was so just kind of reluctant to let her know anything that's happening with him.
To keep her out, because ultimately, a lot of the hero characters don't like to have, not because they don't want anyone kind of worried about them. It's just, it's that I don't want you to feel the pain that you're going to feel. I want to try to keep you away from that as much as possible because, you know, because I'm going to die. Like, I'm over. It's it. There's no way to fix this.
I don't know what you mean. I told
Right,
you.
if he tells her and the stakes become apparent to her, she's going to say, well, we need to spend the last 4, 5, 12 hours that you have left together.
Whereas Frank is like, I need to know this. I need to get this down. I need to tell somebody. I need to dictate. Because like, ultimately the hardest part about like, you know, this whole mystery is him learning why he's in the state that he's in.
It was the poor bereaved little widow who did
And that's such an important thing for his closure on his life. That he's like, we have to do this. I can't tell you this because if I tell you this, you're going to come with me and there's a chance that you may get hurt. And I'm already going to get hurt. Like he already knows, you know, right off the bat that of course he's going to be gone.
He hasn't felt right.
And so by kind of shielding, you know, is it Paula?
Paula. Yeah.
Paula from it and sort of saying, I can't tell you because I don't want you to get hurt. Because you have more time. You can avoid all this. I can't. My fate is sealed. And so now I've got to figure out for the kind of my last hurrah why it is it's happening the way it's happening.
Yeah, but I mean, like even by him not telling her anything, that's not really keeping her away.
No, it's not. But I'm saying let's put you're in that perspective. Would you tell, like, this is the girl you realized that you are in love with, that you're going to marry, that it's going to that she would have been the one, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
would you have told her right then and there, after you realize this, after all that's been said, I'm sorry, I'm going to die?
Probably.
Really?
Probably. I mean, it's so hard to say.
Like, I don't think I
Putting
would.
myself in that
I don't think I
scenario.
would either. I think I would say I would try my best to spare her the
What are you
pain.
going to do?
I kill you now.
Well, see, I would.
No,
I
no,
would.
you've got to listen to me.
I think
You've
it would be
got to
so
give me a
important to
chance.
build
I
up
don't have a chance.
expectation and
It was Holiday.
anticipation,
Believe me, it was Holiday.
just so
He
that
made
way
me feel a
you
little pale.
can
He
you can
planned
prepare
everything.
yourself. You could brace for
Jonathan knew
impact.
about you and Holiday.
Right.
I get
Found
what
it
you're
only
saying.
yesterday. He accused
But when
Holiday.
time is of the essence, when
Holiday
time is of the
pushed me off this
essence,
balcony.
And why me? Why did he want to kill me?
Because you
may-
could prove there was
isn't
no
it,
mistake,
or at least,
that my husband had no reason to
wouldn't it be
commit
more,
suicide.
wouldn't it be
Holiday was
better,
desperate.
quote unquote,
Had
better
killed
to
my
die,
husband.
you know,
He found out
a
how
hero who
much I
served
loved you.
justice,
He thought you spoke to him, that
or
you
a guy
were
who
involved
almost
in-
got there?
That's why it's tricky, and I get where you're coming from. I get where you're absolutely coming from, and there's merits to that too. For me, I think I would be like Bigelow, be like I just do not, I can't bring you through this because I don't want to see you get hurt.
Here's another a woman handling.
This is how it look. If they don't manhandle a woman or smack her across her face, then what kind of movie is this?
And then he locks her in a closet.
Well, this is how it rolls, baby. Bigelow don't give a damn. He's like, look, I got 10 minutes, baby. I gotta solve this mystery. If I don't, I'm screwed. And again, it's closure for him, and that's something.
This
I think
is
that was
another
the first
spatially.
no smoking sign I saw the entire movie.
That was probably graffitied. It was probably a smoking sign.
Probably.
And then some punk was like, no smoking.
It's supposed to be sarcastic. No smoking.
It's an ironic sign.
No smoking. No smoking.
This is another sort of scene that's kind of spatially ambiguous.
That was easy. That was a lot easier than it probably should have been.
Man, the score is good.
And you can hear it all remixed on the Mercury Counter album. Available now at wherever the hell it will be available at.
Yeah, it'll be on basically all the big players.
All the players at iTunes, your Bandcamps, your...
So our check cleared?
Yeah,
For you to say that?
Yeah, our check cleared. Our check cleared a long time ago. Your check out didn't clear.
Got to follow the money.
That's how it
Yeah,
works.
I need you to take 90 minutes and make your way to me.
Like how much? What? That was an awkward fight. Look, he's in there. This is the most awkward chase sequence, but it's so awesome at the same time.
It's kind of cool, but even though it's really drawn out in this weird
It's
way.
getting, it's going long. It's going very long.
Like,
Yeah.
It's just such a weird chase sequence because it's like,
But it is kind of cool in this this weird. He's on a determined rail, a determined path. We know exactly where he's going, how he's going to get there.
Yeah. What the hell is he doing?
It's actually clever.
I know, but like the thing is, the thing that bugs me about this whole film is that what was I gonna say? It's not like they all.
Come on.
Oh, I see. He's taking advantage of the police officer. Yeah. To avoid these because it's
Come on, let's break it up. Move along now. Let's get
No,
going.
but
But he ain't no snitch.
No, he ain't no
No.
snitch. I'm just saying.
Until the end.
Not to the end, of course, but even then.
Snitches get iridium poisoning.
There's was just a weird, interesting chase sequence. I would love to see, that done in a different manner.
It was basically the prequel to Speed.
Was that the prequel to Speed?
Yeah.
that they had to keep it below 30.
They had to keep
above
it
40.
below 10.
Below 10, but above 15.
And right next to a car going almost as fast.
Sure. Oh, hey, are we in the building now?
I think we are.
Yes, we're back in the building.
Nice.
And you get a really
actually. You were there earlier too. Yep.
Yeah.
Back in the Bradford building. Here's
And
our
then-
mysterious figure guy.
I like that they kind of let you forget about that jacket and scarf until this very minute. There's a beauty shot.
Yeah, if you look at that shot, you can definitely tell it's the Bradbury building. Just watch Blade Runner again, watch 500 Days of Summer. You'll see that exact staircase kind of thing there, almost intact. It's actually kind of haunting seeing that, because like I've seen that so many times in other films that I'm like, I recognize like that building. Yeah. So this recording is probably be a bit strange because we're right now almost at the end, pretty much at the end of the film. But I'm certain because of the nature of us being streamed and things like that, we're going to go and talk a little bit beyond the confines of this film. So those of you who are watching post and just getting the audio, it may go on a little bit longer than that. But those who are watching the video and kind of watching in sync and the archive version of the actual live stream will get all this.
The one true way to view.
Well, it's because this is a strange episode for both you and I in this regard. A, it's our first kind of live stream one. B, it's our first time that we're doing a film with the online correspondent, Bryce, over there.
Yeah.
But even more so that we're able to do this in picture form. And I say that's weird because we tend to just do audio and such. But because of the nature of that, I know we're going to go beyond that, because these older films tend not to have long credit sequences, if any.
This one basically has none.
Yeah, exactly, which is just how it is.
Hold on.
Better make it dead on arrival.
Yes!
Blah!
The
D.O.A.
That's the stuff. I get a really sick satisfaction out of seeing people say the titles.
And United Artists, I think the medical facts in this motion picture, authentic luminous toxin is a descriptive term for an actual poison. So there you go. According to an MD back in the 40s. That same MD probably said that a cigarette a day is totally healthy, and you should definitely drink that entire bottle of scotch. It keeps the blood flowing.
A scotch a day. That's as much as you could get because you were too busy drinking scotch.
And that is it. We have ended the film here, and I know we're probably going to chit-chat a bit more, and we can't obviously see your camera because of good old XSplit and all that fun jazz.
Right.
But you people can certainly see us.
Well, now we're in a beautiful sort of two-shot, so we can make out a little better your beautiful faces.
So I'm going to ask you, Brandt, what was your take on this film first?
I mean, when I first saw it, I saw it this morning, kind of watching it out of the corner of my eye as I was finishing up today's episode of Scam School. But the kind of impression I got from this viewing and that viewing, I enjoyed it. I'm definitely glad that I saw it. I think it's interesting. It's this nice little microcosm of its time, and an interesting story, which I think is its really strong point, Mm-hmm. There's some weird things that you would just kind of expect from seeing something that was made of a different era than you currently live in. But there was some really interesting concepts, and I think that's the big takeaway. Like there was this great idea behind it.
Now, the same way, especially because, like, you know, it is very much of its era. It is of the 50s. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. It is, or I keep saying 50s, but like 49 and 50, you know, you're on the tail end of that decade. You're pretty much in that era. It is very much of that era. It has a lot of those sort of hiccups in terms of, like, you know, people smoking all the time, people drinking all the time, manhandling of women and kind of stuff. But what I dug about this movie was a lot of those sort of thematic, just that element of, like, how can we tell a noir, a mystery on a clock first and foremost, and let's make sure that clock, because again, there's so many ways you could do a clock. You could have, like, you know, a bomb's about to go off or something like that, but then you could defuse a bomb, you know, or a guy's going to kill this man in 2 hours, but you could reason with him. Like, this is a science kind of thing that you can't stop. Like there's no way to stop this. This is going to happen. Yeah. And I like the idea of how do you do a murder mystery, from the perspective of the guy who got murdered, so to speak.
Right.
And B, how do you do that in a clock kind of sense?
Yeah, and just really quickly, like I think one of the reasons why it resonates with me is because of that element of determinism, that, you know, to see how much he can maybe not change the path of things, but to see where he can take the journey before he gets to the destined end. Yeah. I always really enjoy stories that incorporate that element into it.
What about you, Bryce?
Along the same lines, it's very much a classical drama, a tragedy. It's laid out at the beginning, granted not by some sort of third-party force, but by Bigelow himself. And then you spend the rest of the narrative getting to that point, figuring out, oh, is this it? Is this it? I mean, it's classic. It's a classic, not even a trope. It's just it's tragedy. It's beyond even a subsection.
Well, because, you know, Bigelow isn't, like, he doesn't go to San Francisco thinking all this is gonna kick off. Right. You know, he goes to San Francisco thinking, okay, I'm gonna sow my roots. I'm gonna you know, have a good time, and then I'm gonna, you know, settle down with Paula here and have a great life.
He's chilling out in the hotel room, checking out Tinder.
Pretty much. That'd be the modern equivalent. Would be definitely going down Tinder and swiping like or not, or whatever the heck it is, and that. But you know, and so I like that. That's the catalyst. That it kicks off, you know, this sort of everyday character into a murder mystery that isn't so much that he has to solve, not even so much because he needs to solve it, because ultimately he doesn't necessarily need to. He could have accepted his fate, but because he's like, no, I've got to know why it is I died. Not many people get this opportunity in life to understand why something happened like that. Yeah, I've got to know for my sake. And everything else, it sort of gets dragged into this whole thing, and it's really, like I said, in terms of the thematics, it's awesome. It's definitely something I could see. That in terms of course, in film history, it's also a good thing because you get to see a lot of the, like we mentioned, the Bradbury Building, which is a very, very famous Hollywood building.
Landmark.
And two, you do get a perspective of the 50s and sort of what sensibilities they had, not only just filming and sort of framing of shots and cutting of things, but how stuff like that. But there's even some more like advanced stuff. There's a lot of, like I said, continuous shots. There's a lot of sort of long, drawn out sequences that I could see modern filmmakers kind of doing to a certain degree. Yeah, not a heck of a lot of them, but you know, ultimately, I'm glad I saw this film. I'd much like you saw this morning as well before all this kicked off, and I'd kind of, like I said, I'd been immersed in this more because of Bryce here, just simply telling me about the film and then about his album concept and things like that, and I was intrigued just on that note alone. And when Bryce asked, "Hey, would you want to do this kind of thing?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, it'd be amazing to comment on this movie because it is a really cool film, and if you don't know about it, you've never heard of it,
it's approachable.
You can watch this right now."
Right. It's kind of an approachable maybe understated. How well it's known today is kind of hard to calculate because it's a 60-plus-year-old film, but it's also on a list of movies that people search for regularly, public domain content. But you get down to it, and it's an interesting mix of the classical tragedy with action, with intrigue and mystery.
Well, as we said at the beginning of it started recording in 2004, D.O.A. was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And such films on that list include like my all-time favorite science fiction film, Back to the Future, and a couple other ones as well. So this movie is important enough, and again, I want to make sure I phrase that correctly, because not all movies from certain eras get put in the Library of Congress. There's very select few movies that get put in there, and these are movies I always say as a phrase that as long as the United States exists as a concept, and as long as almost we as people will probably exist on this earth or whatever in terms of time, that this movie was so important, or was viewed as so important in 2004 as that film, that we are going to do our damnedest to preserve it. And that means a lot. Like that's very significant. Like that's a very that ain't a long list. It's not like the longest list. Like let's see what else is kind of preserved in 2004 to kind of give an idea. But like I said, the only one I can think of just right off the bat, just to put in an idea of films in that list, we have stuff like Toy Story, Fargo, Goodfellas, Raging Bull. Technically Birth of a Nation's there, not because of the thematics in it, but because of the techniques it did in terms of camera stuff. Yeah. But we have Phantom of the Opera. We've got Mickey Mouse, Steamboat Willie in there. We've got Wizard of Oz. So this movie, because of everything it is, as weird as it sounds, in 2004 was viewed as, we need to make sure we keep this in that. And I'm glad that, Bryce, you picked this movie out of all the things we mix. I mean, obviously it's public domain, and that makes it easier. Yeah. But it's a very significant film that I think needs a lot more attention in modern times, because it's such again, thematically, it's something I could totally see working now.
Yeah. It's kind of a low key film from that era. I mean, people probably better know something like Citizen Kane or The Wizard of Oz, but if you go to the IMDb page, you can see that it's actually referenced kind of a lot in different cultural, little things like TV shows, like episodes of NCIS, or some small movie will have a screenshot, or you'll see them watching it in the background, and so it's kind of low key, but not totally unknown. And it would be amazing if this movie sort of had a resurgence, because the tale it tells is not it's executed in its own time, but the story, like we've mentioned, could be anytime.
Could be easily adapted, and again, it being known as a film that is in the film registry, it could that could easily bolster it. I think it's. I really am surprised that no one in this modern era has tried it. So this is to you people out there who watch this stream later on. If you're filmmakers, if you're guys that could think you could pull something off like that. And again, it's not a hard set-wise to pull off. It will require a lot of understanding of threads of storylines and kind of keeping it all together. But if you could pull off a modern version, man, there is such potential for that.
Sure, yeah.
Like insane potential. Well, this is the end, I think. We've hit our good logical stopping point, and such. Of course, if you want to catch more of what me and Brandt do here in Cinematography, you can head to our website, cosmicradio.tv/cinematography. You'll find all previous episodes, our reaction stuff.
What's one of the more recent movies that you've seen?
Commentary wise, we did Inception not too long ago. It hasn't gone up yet, but it will soon. Some other stuff like that. Reaction wise, we saw How to Train Your Dragon 2 last, I believe, and then we're going to see Guardians of the Galaxy this week, so that'll go up probably next week.
Right. If you kind of want a more fun film, I think one of our funnier ones that we did commentary wise would be The Mighty Ducks.
That's right.
That was just such a classic commentary because it was more of a trip down memory lane for me and Brandt. I was about to say Bryce.
Whoops.
I tell too many B people on my podcast channel. Brandt here because how he approached the film and how I approached the film was sort of different but very similar. And it was just sort of watching very much the tropes and talking about films of their time and how you go beyond that.
Roberto, what did you do?
My job.
And
of course that. But ultimately, of course, if you want to catch more of that, head on over there. And of course, special thanks. Thank you so much, Bryce, for letting us stream this on that. And of course, to the Indie Love people for letting us stream on their channel a non-game content kind of thing.
Sure. Well, thanks for joining me, especially on kind of a little bit of short notice. I mean, doing an album based on a movie, you would think one of the very first things we would have done was something similar to this.
Would have been to actually talk about the movie, because that's why I was like, I know that when you approach, I'm like, I know what we do. I think we should do this and this, and I knew that would be the rhythm of things because that made the most logical of senses in terms of this whole production and such.
Yeah, and definitely thanks again to the Indie Love crew that maybe I'm a part of. That's actually an interesting question. If I'm still a part of the Indie Love crew,
why would that be interesting? Why wouldn't you be?
Because
he
Sunday.
said all those racist things, and they were like, "No thanks, Bryce. No thanks."
No, on Sunday we actually ended the executive show.
What?
Which is a bit of a bombshell, but it was sad to let it go, but with the move coming up, the spark that Will and I had sort of doing the show together in studio, we just haven't ever had luck capturing that on Skype, so we figured.
Well, you know what that's going to mean, right? That with this move happening and you coming to Austin, right?
We're gonna Executives 2.0, 3.0 with Roberto.
Pretty much. It's gonna be jump point, and it's gonna be focused. It's gonna have. Yeah. Actually, you know, it'd be kind of fun. I wouldn't mind seeing, and I'm not gonna put him on the spot, but I'm putting him on the spot here. I would not mind seeing an Executives 2 or 3.0 with you and Mr. Hughes here.
Yeah, I've got all the good visual bits from the Executives. So
that's right, from the audio podcast, true. The Executives.
I was definitely thinking about if I ever got back on, I was gonna shoot it in Brian's studio and have like a giant Top Poppers like banner posted up in the back, stuff like that.
I was thinking about that because you upped your game on Executives every time, from the hat to wearing like a full-on suit. So I figured the next thing was you'd either have to do it in an office or you would have to have some sort of background joke.
Right, yeah, shoot it at the top of like the Frost Building or something.
Something like that, exactly. Oh my God, I would see. This is the advantage you're gonna get. And honestly, if you're watching and live or watch recording, you just have to move here, man. You just have to come to Austin. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, just quit school and your job and come down to Austin. That's cool.
Or just get done with school and move on to Austin.
Easy
Transfer to UT, whatever. I don't care. Just do what you gotta do. Put your ass down here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not exactly in Will's cards right now, and I think he really wants to move to Canada.
That's a good place too. That's a good place too. Ultimately, well, he can visit, but regardless of that, I feel bad the Executives had to sort of end, so to speak. But yeah. I think ultimately, with Jump Point still having a link on Indie Love, we're definitely friends of the network. We're not strangers, and I don't see why you would not still be part of that crew, in at least in spirit.
I still have logon information, so
there you go.
If you ever want to hack the site, hit me up.
I think we're fine.
We'll talk after the stream.
We'll talk after that. So that's it for the day then. Thank you so much, Bryce, for letting us do this. Brandt, as always, thank you so much for letting me be part of this. Where can people find you online and all your fun stuff?
Yo, you can find me on Twitter at Gatowag, Gatowag. You can find me on all other places. Just either search for Gatowag, search for Brandt. I'm out there.
Totally. And of course, you can find me. I'm at Vincent404 on the Twitters. And if you do want to check out more of what me and Brandt do in terms of all these movies discussions, head to our website, cosmicradio.tv/Cinematalkraphy.
And you can send us a message on Twitter at Cinematography.
Exactly.
And you can send us an email, cinematography@gmail.com. And there's probably a bunch of other ways.
Right. We look at the comments. We look at everything and all that stuff. We watch it like hawks. And we are very, very open to that. So if there's movie suggestions you want us to do, or you really want to hear our reaction of something, let us know.
If you just want to insult us, like, really get in there.
You have to do but if you're going to do an insult, make sure that it is in 40s and 50s speak.
Yeah, sure.
That's your
requirement. Jive lingo.
Yeah.
Jive lingo, daddy-o.
Take care, people.
Oh, and you can find Bryce's
stuff. So Bryce. Yeah, where can we find your stuff, Bryce? Sorry.
You can find me on Twitter at Brycas, Brycas. And if you're watching the archive of this, and there's still time left on the Kickstarter, neshcomplex.com/MC, get a better shirt like this. Ooh.
What? And of course, you'll be able to find that even if after the fact, once it's out in live and fun, most likely it'll be at least
Mercury Counter.
Mercury Counter, that's right. Or, if it's after the fact, neshcomplex.com, you'll find shit there. Good shit.
It will, trust me, it'll be out there in full force, and I am super excited to hear that because I have a preview of it. Yes. I haven't really sat down and listened to it yet.
You have to. It's only like 30 minutes. It's not even that long.
I know, but the only reason I haven't sat down and listened to it because I was trying to hook it up to Crypto the Necrodancer, and it wasn't working, and then I got sucked into Crypto the Necrodancer.
That's tough because Crypto the Necromancer is a roguelike, so you're probably not even likely to get through the 10th stage, let alone...
Surprised. You'd be surprised how much a soundtrack can push me in a game. Okay. So that's it for today. So tune in next time. Ta-ta.
Oh, you guys don't have a sound effect at the end of your show?
No, we don't have a sproing.
Nope.
And until next week, I'm doing the old-timey hand crank cinema.
Yeah, sure. Sometimes we just make noises. Sometimes. Yep.